The final step in the target marketing process is positioning. Remember, step 1 is segmentation, step 2 is targeting, step 3, positioning, design a good or service to meet a segment's needs, and develop a marketing mix that will create a competitive advantage in the minds of the selected target market. So, positioning is developing a marketing strategy to influence how a particular market segment perceives is the key word there, a good or service in comparison to the competition. And let's use the example of the toothpaste market. Toothpaste is toothpaste, but that's not a positioning. A positioning is why you should use this particular toothpaste. The most successful position ever was from Crest when they came out with the, look mom, no cavities, cavity prevention positioning. Crest toothpaste means far fewer cavities for all the family. The key thing here was Crest had the seal of approval of the American Dental Association. They were the first to ever have that. So people believed that Crest was better than anyone else at preventing cavities, and that was the most important reason to use toothpaste to prevent cavities. Well, now almost all toothpaste have the approval of the American Dental Association. Almost all toothpaste are relatively equal with regard to cavity prevention. So almost all toothpaste have a different positioning than just cavity prevention. Cavity prevention is assumed or implied. So Crest has come out with several different toothpastes. One is their Pro Health, and they position that as healthier gums and stronger teeth. Healthier gums and stronger teeth. Now, another one of Crest's products is Crest Plus Scope. White Teeth Fresh Breath, one product. The whitening power of Crest, the freshening power of Scope. How about this positioning from Colgate Total, the toothpaste that never sleeps, fights germs for 12 hours day and night. Long lasting is their positioning here. Here's a positioning for Close-Up from the 1970s. Bangles and beads might catch his eye, but a brilliant close-up smile and fresh close-up breath might even capture his heart. Close-Up was the toothpaste to help attract someone. They continue with that intense freshness, intense closeness, close-up toothpaste. How about this one, Sensodyne? Sensodyne. Well, if you look on the package there, you can see their positioning. It's the toothpaste for sensitive teeth and cavity prevention. Topol originally was positioned as the smoker's toothpaste. In fact, it even said that on their package. But with the percent of the population smoking going down, they've broadened that positioning to all handling of problems on the teeth, stains on the teeth. Love Coffee, it's no match for Topol. Effectively fights stains. Tobacco, coffee, and tea, red wine, these stains have met their match. This is taking whitening a little bit further. This is for people that particularly have a problem with stained teeth from things like smoking, coffee, wine. Kids, there are a number of toothpastes that are clearly positioned to kids. Kids Crest, Colgate, Aquafresh Kids Mint. Clearly those are targeted to kids. One of the original big brands was Pepsodent, and they went with teeth whitening as their main positioning. You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent. Be proud of your teeth, sure of your breath with Pepsodent. Now, Pepsodent has not kept pace with Crest and Colgate, and as a result, their market share has dropped dramatically. So now their positioning is a nostalgia positioning, if you will. Pepsodent, great original taste, original flavor, all-American brand. Very much of a nostalgia positioning there. So when you want to develop a positioning strategy, it's got to be in comparison with the competition. So your steps in developing a strategy, analyze competitors' positions, and then come up with a competitive advantage. It can be real or perceived, as long as your target market believes it, perceives it to be the case, it's as good as being real. Then you want to match your marketing mix elements to your segment and then see how it's working. Evaluate target market's responses and modify those as needed. Remember your positioning strategy. Positioning is the perception, that's the key word there. Positioning is the perception that happens in the mind of the target. Let's look at some other examples. And here's one. I'll go back in time with Miller High Life. Enjoy life with Miller High Life, the champagne of bottled beer. Clearly, this is a very upscale positioning. People wearing suits and, dressed up for social occasions. Miller, the champagne of bottled beer, very, very much of a, upscale positioning there. Another very common thing is competitive positioning, comparisons to a product's competition, either directly or indirectly. The most famous example of this by far was the Pepsi Challenge, where they went directly after Coke. They let people try X and Y. It was on a blind basis. The majority of people that said that they preferred Coke actually ended up preferring Pepsi when they didn't know what it was that they were drinking. Very, very successful competitive positioning. Less successful was this one of Burger King versus McDonald's. Big Mac seems more like a medium. That side-by-side comparison of the Whopper versus the Big Mac was not, successful in supplanting McDonald's the way Pepsi was able to go past Coke in U.S. packaged cola sales. Another excellent competitive positioning is Mac positioned against the PC. Hi, I'm a Mac and I'm a PC. Very, very successful competitive positioning. Remember, positioning is the perception that happens in the mind of the target market. Here was a very successful campaign that ran for decades from Dole Pineapple, equating enjoying Dole Pineapple and Dole Pineapple juice with, the aloha lifestyle of Hawaii. Another great example of positioning was 7-Up. They positioned themselves as the alternative to cola by referring to themselves as the un-cola. Colas are dark and heavy, but 7-Up is light and refreshing. It's the un-cola. Very, very successful positioning. Now, 7-Up had a competitor come in against them, Sprite, and over time, the marketers at Sprite convinced people that Sprite tasted better. Obey your thirst, even though on a blind taste basis, people couldn't tell the difference. Soft drinks are a good industry, a good category to look at for positioning because basically they're flavored sugar water, so positioning is hugely important for them. Mountain Dew, do the do. If you had to identify Mountain Dew in one word, for many people that word would be extreme, because Mountain Dew has come to kind of own that positioning of Mountain Dew drinkers are on the go and they're involved in extreme sports. That's positioning, plain and simple. Axe, there's nothing complicated about Axe's positioning. The cleaner you are, the dirtier you get. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out what they're trying to position there. Use this product and you'll get lucky. Here's an old positioning, and I don't mean that a pun, from Old Spice. Gee, I wish my man smelled like Old Spice. This became very, very dated over time, and yet they were able to refresh it. Smell like a man, Old Spice. Very, very successful repositioning of, and really more modern positioning, if you will, of Old Spice. Now, earlier I mentioned Procter & Gamble having a number of different detergents, Tide, Cheer, Bold, Gain. They got a whole bunch of them, but they're each positioned differently. Tide is positioned as tough, powerful cleaning. Cheer plus color protection. Bold plus fabric softener. Gain plus odor removal. Era, stain treatment and stain removal. Dash is their value brand, which is marketing buzzword for cheaper. Solo, detergent and fabric softener in liquid form. Both Dreft and Ivory are targeted to parents with babies. Dreft is safe, outstanding cleaning. Ivory, fabric and skin safety on baby clothes. Ariel positioned at the Hispanic market. So Procter & Gamble, lots of different products, targeted differently, positioned differently. Earlier, I talked about Anheuser-Busch having drinking water for areas that were hit by things like a hurricane, and this was a good example of corporate social responsibility. Anheuser-Busch never sells drinking water. They only make this on an emergency basis when it's needed. But this next product was for sale, Coors Rocky Mountain Sparkling Water. This came out in the 1990s. Coors believed that so much of what their beer stood for was Rocky Mountain freshness because it was made from the fresh Rocky Mountain water, and that therefore that means that they could come out with Rocky Mountain sparkling water. People would really care about that. That was unsuccessful because Coors meant beer. Consumers were confused by this product. I'm going to use Coors to introduce the example of repositioning. Repositioning is changing consumers' perceptions of a brand in relation to competing brands. Coors' original beer, which they call the banquet beer, was very, very successful back in the 1960s and the 1970s, but then it lost a lot of its luster, so they're trying to reposition it now. Banquet, the legend has arrived. One thing that they're doing is putting it in the throwback stubby bottles. So far, this repositioning effort by Coors has not been successful. When you reposition, you're trying to modify your positioning strategy. It's commonly used to change the brand image. It may be able to breathe life into retro brands, a once popular brand that can be revived. That's what Coors is trying to do with Banquet. That's what Miller High Life is trying to do. I mentioned their upscale positioning. Their repositioning was just the opposite, if you will. They used to be the champagne of beers, but now they're positioning themselves as much more of a blue-collar beer, almost the exact opposite. Repositioning is sometimes hard to do, especially when a brand becomes dated. Here is one of the products from the General Motors. That's the Buick. They have successfully repositioned Buick from an old stodgy car to a much more relevant car. They've done a good job of repositioning Buick. Not so much though with repositioning Oldsmobile. They came to be known as kind of like an older person's car, and they took the somewhat unique advertising platform of saying the new generation of Oldsmobile. This is not your father's Oldsmobile. Well, it turned out that, it was your father's Oldsmobile. They weren't able to reposition that, and so they actually pulled the plug on that. They phased out the entire Oldsmobile division. The brand personality of Oldsmobile became too fuddy-duddy, too old. Brand personality is an important concept. It's the distinctive image that captures the brand's character and benefits. And if you want to look at your brand on a competitive standpoint, vis-a-vis other brands that it competes against, a good tool to use is called a perceptual map. Now, this is a technique used to visually describe where various products and brands are located in consumers' minds relative to competing brands. And you want to do a perceptual map on two parameters. For example, you might do cost and quality. So here I've got a perceptual map of high cost to the top and low cost to the bottom, high quality to the right and low quality to the left. If I were to look at the fashion retailing industry, I might use contemporary and classic as the two ends of one of my components, and expensive and discount. And then I could map Banana Republic and Gap and Old Navy and H&M and so on and so forth. I mentioned the auto industry a minute ago. I might try to map autos, high price to low price, high quality to low quality. Now, one thing about a perceptual map that utilizes things like price and quality, there's an relationship, between those two. And so you would expect most of the products to fall somewhere along a line like this. If it's lower price, you'd expect lower quality. If it's higher price, you'd expect higher quality. If something is above that line, it'd be a good deal. If something's below that line, it'd be kind of a ripoff. Now, you don't have to use things like price and quality. You could use other parameters. For example, if I wanted to do a perceptual map of women's magazines, I might go upscale and downscale, fashion and service, and then I see that I've got the so-called fashion magazines, Vogue, Cosmo, Glamour, up in the upper right-hand quadrant. I've got the so-called homemakers magazines, Family Circle, Redbook, Women's World, in the lower left-hand quadrant. The thing about a perceptual map is you choose which parameters you're going to look at, and then you go ahead and map your brand vis-a-vis the competitive brands. Positioning, step 3 in the target marketing process.